Okay, I think we'll get started again, Matt.
All right, so I had the summary, and now, yeah, I'm going to move on and into a bit more about understanding the consumer. So now this is fun. I did this slide first at the Delaware Ag Conference a couple of years back. We're going to talk about, understanding the consumer and customer demand. So imagine for a moment that you're on a long car trip. You're been driving all day. It's getting late. You're getting tired, and you have a big thing tomorrow. It's a big meeting, a conference, a wedding, something that you really need a good night's sleep for. So you're driving along, and you're tired, and you need a place to crash, and you see this sign, up on the horizon. There's a hotel ahead, so oh good, finally you can pull off for the night and get a good night's sleep. It's really important. And you check in, and it's a mom and pop hotel. The room's perfectly clean and acceptable, and you're glad for that. And you get into bed, you need that good night's sleep. And as you lay there, you realize you're starting to ache. So you turn the other side and you begin to ache, and you realize this mattress is really hard. It's like laying on a sheet of plywood. Okay. So this is you're, oh man, this is uncomfortable, right? Now I need this good night's sleep, and I'm really uncomfortable. So you go down to the front desk and you speak, it turns out, to the owner, and you say, hey, that the room's nice, but the mattress is as hard as a rock. And the owner says, I'm so glad that you came down here to talk to me about this, right? Did you know that very hard mattresses are scientifically proven to be better for you? He's excited, right? Hard mattresses align your spine for better health, and people who sleep on very hard mattresses live an average of 5 years longer, and they earn more money at their jobs. This has all been scientifically proven now. They have lower cholesterol, more energy, and fewer children. Boy, this guy's ecstatic about this. He's telling you, and again, hands you a brochure about very hard mattresses. So now, that you've heard all this, my question is, can you go back to the room and get a good night's sleep? Right? What do you choose? Do you choose to go back and lay on what feels like a sheet of plywood? Or would you go somewhere else for extra money that had what you knew to be a soft and comfortable bed? Hopefully you get it. My point here is that as marketers, understanding the consumer is better than convincing the consumer. And it happens often for us to think that, we need to teach people the value of New York grown goods, right? We need to teach teach customers. We need to educate customers about the value of New York milk or something like that. Well, the fact is that it's better to understand the consumer. In this case, people who are traveling want comfy beds to sleep in, than to try to convince or educate the consumer about the value of your product. Telling them, hey, very hard mattresses are great. That's the point of that illustration, is even when you're educated, you may not want that product, right? So it's better to understand the consumer. It's more efficient to understand the consumer. So this leads to, and I alluded to it earlier in the comments, to two basic approaches in marketing. One is called push, where you're pushing your product out into the market or pushing it onto the consumer. And the other is called pull. And this means that the consumer wants the product and they're actually pulling it into the market. We could think of these as production-driven marketing or as market-driven production. Are we making what people want, or are we trying to sell them what we make? So for a better, fleshing out of these ideas, production-driven or push marketing is this idea that we make this stuff. We believe it's very good, it's good stuff, and we think you should buy it. So in order to sell our product, we go where there are people and we try to sell it to them. This is expensive and time consuming. It's very inefficient when we think about the amount of hours and dollars that you're going to spend on marketing and the amount of sales that it can generate. It's expensive and time consuming. Our marketing objective becomes to persuade people, to educate them, or to convince them. We need them to try what we have and then ultimately buy it. On the flip side, you have pull marketing. This is where the consumer is saying, I wish this product existed. I wish I could get this stuff. People want this stuff. They will buy it. We go where our target customers are in order to serve them. It's a very different proposition than what I said on the last slide, which is we go where there are people and try to sell to them. Now we're understanding we're going to go where our target customers shop in order to serve them. It's much more efficient, has a lower marketing cost than push marketing. Our marketing objective, instead of trying to convince people, becomes just to let them know that we're there and we have the stuff. Right, and I can think of some fun examples for this. When it comes to push marketing, think about Tide laundry detergent. You know, they, in order to sort of stay relevant with customers, they're coming out with a new version of Tide all the time. And no one really asked for the new version, right? So at one point they had Tide with Acti Lift. And I read up online what was Acti Lift supposed to be. It's a magic ingredient in Tide that gets stains out of your clothes. So no consumer, I would argue, was sitting around, you know, doing laundry thinking, man, I wish that, you know, I could get Tide with Acti Lift. They didn't pull that product into existence. As a result, Tide was in a push position with each new version. So what do? They offer coupons. Right? They're trying to get people to buy it. So they discount it, they put it on sale. If you're, you know, my age or older, you can remember they would mail a foil pouch of Tide to your house. Think of that. They're so pushing the product onto the market that they're willing to mail the product for free into people's homes. And another technique was to have a little bag of the new formula hanging on the neck of the old kind, so that when you bought that, you got that free sample. Just think about how that's a push product. Now, think about the iPhone as a pull item. Consumers want the newest iPhone. Apple doesn't have to offer discounts or coupons. Their objective is really just to let the consumer know that they have the product, that's available, right? We have the stuff. People will sleep on the sidewalk for 3 days outside of an Apple store to be the first ones to get the new iPhone. To give it a local foods example, I think about winter farmers markets. You know, 10 and 15 years ago, there weren't winter farmers markets, and the consumer really was pulling them into the marketplace. They were saying, I wish there was a place to buy local produce, local meat, and so on during these winter months. Right. So when those markets came about, they were really in a pull market position that didn't take any convincing. So do your market research, that is understanding your customers and what they want, so that you can get your product into the pull position, because it's going to be much more efficient for you. You probably don't have the time and the money to spend convincing people. So reality check, we talked about a marketing strategy, a strategy sentence. Your strategy sentence directs your conscious and deliberate decisions in marketing. It's based on your target market's preferences and your understanding of that consumer. So taking this strategy sentence and using it to understand consumers. So here we have the marketing plan outline that I introduced in the beginning, and now we've covered the first two sections. We talked about sitting down with your team. I'm giving you a very literal to-do list. I try to make this as actionable as possible. Sit down, you know, with your team, work on a strategy sentence, make it very specific, so specific that you wouldn't want to show it to those customers, right? Really draw a caricature of them. Sometimes it can be kind of funny or silly, or maybe a little bit not flattering, but that's okay because it's a caricature. And then do some research to better understand the consumer. Find out, you know, you can do this just by prowling around online, what your target consumer is interested in. Look at other places that they shop from and how they're presenting their products. And I'm talking about research in a very basic form here. Now we're going to move on to the next two sections of the plan, creating objectives and an action plan. So now you can move on to your second set of handouts. If you didn't figure that out already, we're going to cover objectives and the communication plan. So here's that reminder of that outline. We're going to move on to this next two sections. So marketing objectives. Like a strategy sentence, the real payoff with an objective comes when it's very specific and measurable. I guess as a ag economist, I really like measurable. I want to know how I'm progressing and if I'm improving things and what I need to do in order to reach my goals. So think about if I had this objective for myself, if I said, I should really start to put some money in savings. This is my objective. I want to start putting money in savings. Maybe you've said the same thing. I know I've said it a lot through the years and I've never started, right? It's kind of hard to realize this objective, in part because it's vague. Now, if I said I will put money in savings every month, I've strengthened my written objective a little bit, and I suppose it's more likely that I'll start to save money if I check at the end of each month and determine, hey, did I put any money in savings? No, well then I still should. I've actually increased my chances of realizing this objective. But think about this third example. I'll put $50 from my first paycheck in savings every month beginning in September. When we write an objective that's very specific and measurable with a timeline like this, we increase our chances of accomplishing it, and we actually make the work of doing this easier. When it's a vague objective, it actually feels to me like it's a lot harder to know if I'm accomplishing it and where to begin. When I write a specific and measurable objective like this last one, I know what I have to do. I know when I need to do it. I can check halfway through this period and see if I've begun to reach this goal. And don't forget that you can come back and revise an objective. So if I determine, hey, $50 a month is not really feasible, that's okay. I can reduce my objective to 30 or something like that. But I'll have realized that by checking in and measuring my progress. So this is just an illustration of the importance of writing objectives and making them really actionable. When it comes to marketing, the question is to think about, what are you trying to accomplish? And, I'm thinking here of friends with nearby farms who will, get a hold of me and say, hey, Matt, what do you think about this? We're going to, put a coupon on the back of our business card for $10 off. What do you think of that idea? Well, what are you trying to accomplish is what I usually ask. You should have a specific objective in mind when you create some kind of a marketing action. So suggested ideas for what you might want to accomplish is to build a positive and distinct image and carve out your spot in the market. So gain exposure with more consumers, to increase your brand name and your visual recognition. And then of course, we're all going to be thinking about gaining new customers and increasing sales. Objectives are not just sales based though. You could think about, especially if you're in a new business and you're still in the planning stages, setting goals of consumer exposure. So you could say, we want to sell our product to restaurants. We want to sell it direct to consumer. So we can create objectives that are based on exposure, like how many restaurants will I call each month, or how many Facebook likes can I get from my business page? These aren't really sales-based objectives. They're just building that following and getting more exposure, and useful objectives to write as you work out your market. Objectives make sense around a production schedule and a marketing budget. And what I mean by production schedule is just looking, we had this bakery example that I keep sticking with. If you're baking 1,500 loaves of bread each day, then you would build sales objectives and even consumer outreach objectives around that production schedule, 1,500 loaves a day. If you're have a vegetable operation, you're going to look at the time of year and the amount of products that you want to sell, or livestock are easy to plan around because if you're harvesting animals during certain months, then that production schedule makes sense. And then having a marketing budget, you do need to allow yourself to spend some money on reaching these objectives. And I like to start to form an objective around sales or around outreach, and then say, what would make sense for me to spend in order to reach this? Would I feel good about selling 75 CSA shares and spending $1,000? If I thought that I wanted to sell those shares and I'd be willing to spend $1,000 over the course of 2 months, now I can really build this objective out. Key ingredients to include when you create an objective, and I'll have some examples on the following slides, is to include your audience. Of course, it makes the most sense to use your target audience from your strategy sentence, to have that measurable goal of outreach or sales, to give yourself a beginning and an end time, and then assign that budget that you're willing to spend. And then it takes brainstorming with your team to come up with a really efficient and exciting action. You're going to come up with better ideas through this objective planning process than through an autopilot response. So once again, better for me means more efficient, higher yielding of sales for each dollar an hour invested. Let's do some examples. We can say last year I grossed an average of $525 per farmer's market. So it's really common for people to say that a marketing objective is to increase sales. And the more specific we can get, the easier we can start to think about making that happen. So the objective is I want to gross an average of 750 per market, up from 525 last year. My audience for this is my target audience at this market. I'm going to give myself a budget of $75 a week. I'll still have taken home more money even after I spend my marketing budget of 75. I want to accomplish this from June 21 through October 31. So that's my market season. Now action. I brainstorm through it and I think, how could I increase sales from 525 to 750? Well, if I could get 38 customers to spend $20 or more, I'd hit my sales goal. How will I get people to spend $20 or more? I'd offer 10% off all orders that are $20 or larger. And to do this, I'd put up a big sign at my market stall that says, when you spend $20, you get $10 off. Now, this is me trying to quickly brainstorm an example for you. And what I realized is 10% of 20 is only $2 off. And, bargain hunters don't really care probably about just getting $2 off 20. So you could come up with something better. But the point is going through this thinking of these ingredients for an objective and then creating one that's actually going to be more effective. This, for the sake of time, I'm going to skip over this one. But let's talk about how to take that objective and create something that is innovative and creative. So we're moving from objectives, transitioning right into the communication plan, which is the action or the outreach. In this last example, it was putting up a sign and offering a discount. The discount is in effect my marketing budget, and maybe I would devote some money to creating that sign. So the action is the communication plan. With communication, there is some communication like on Facebook, and I hope you're all willing and able to use Facebook for your businesses, where you might just be maintaining a relationship or just letting folks see what the day-to-day is, see what's popping up for you in your season as you go through. But by and large, when we are creating marketing objectives, then we're going to want to create a more specific communication plan. So it's going to be informed by your objectives. Each promotion or each message out is going to have these ingredients, and it's kind of, I hope, I included all this in the handouts because it kind of becomes a lot of lists here, but you're going to have a call to action. This is what you want your consumer to do. And there's quite a variety on here of what your call to action could do. It could be just share our post or like our post or comment, right? So, or it could be visit our place, make a purchase. Lots of different calls to action. But the idea is that when we have an objective driven communication, we want the customer to do something. The mechanism is going to be how we're going to try to encourage them to do the call to action. The special offer is any incentive that we offer. We're going to have a timeline or a deadline for this. We're going to have our target audience, our budget, and then some image. If you put a post up on social media, you really need to include an image. So let me kind of try to get into this in a little more detail. Samples of call to action, and that's why I said this is kind of a lot of lists, but my intent here is to give you something very concrete that you can now take and use in almost a formulaic way, just kind of pulling off of these lists and beginning to construct your outreach. So as I started to list off in the last slide, the action that you want your customer to do, it shouldn't always be focused around sales. There's lots of other things that you can do ultimately to be relationship building, offering experience to your customers, and showing that they're supporting their motivations behind their purchases. So asking them to buy your product is probably the most obvious one. Asking them to refer a friend, to share your post, to visit your online store or your brick and mortar location, your farm. Maybe you're asking them to give you an online review, attend your event, or to share what they have. And I think, I've worked with some farms who are concerned about their ability to take good pictures or to come up with recipes. And this is an example of where you can actually ask your customers and your followers to provide that for you. Hey, share your favorite recipe that you make with our product. Now, you don't have the pressure of coming up with recipes. You've turned it into an engagement opportunity, and they're going to share their recipes, or share a photo of the last way that you used our product or the last meal you prepared. Or, I've even seen a local clothing brand, local to Ithaca, saying, give us a picture of you wearing our product. So here your call to action is actually to get your customer base to help you with your marketing, which I think is a great, I feel like it's kind of a sneaky way for you to work on stuff that you may not feel like you can do well yourself. Okay, so we had the call to action. Now we're going to have the reward or the incentive for people to respond to this. This is what the customer gets. There's also a chance to use your marketing budget very creatively. You might be surprised by what motivates your customers to take action. And it doesn't always have to be literal cash value like products or discounts. People who want to be connected with your business and your farm will value the feeling that they're getting something special, or they're getting exclusive treatment, the sense that they're not just another customer. And that can even come from, just like I said, sharing their recipe or sharing their photos. They feel like they're more involved with your business and not just another customer. So here's a sample list of different kinds of rewards. Of course, cash value items make sense. They're easy to think about, like discounts, free items. But there can also be things like bragging rights, right? When you choose their recipe, they can share that with their friends, and they can kind of feel proud that you're using their recipe or their photo or a photo of them, right? You can give them an experience at the farm which does take your time, but doesn't necessarily have this idea of a cash value like a discount does. Inviting them to come and see the farm or see the business, to take part in it. Depending on how big your sort of ask is of your customer, you can even give them an experience, like offering to visit their kids' classroom, right? The farmer or the baker is going to come and speak to their kids' classroom. That's a reward. Giving them a special deal, of course, and then partnering with other businesses to offer their goods and their experiences and their rewards mutually between your business and theirs. You'd want to choose businesses that make a lot of sense for your target customer. So I'm going to have a slide about that in just a moment. So the mechanism is just the way that we tie now the call to action to the reward. And there's lots of different ways. You've probably participated in these things. People who do what we're asked, people who submit a recipe get a reward, and that's that's a discount, or we share their recipe on our page or whatever. So you can see how you could pull something off the action list, use one of these mechanisms to tie it to some reward. And again, just to say, the rewards don't always have to have a hard cash value that you're spending. Although if you do set your marketing budget, you could get pretty creative. It could be actually kind of exciting what you could wind up doing with your marketing budget. To give you an example, there's a small farmers market down in one of these southern tier counties, and they were having trouble getting folks to actually attend. It was kind of a new market, and it was a small size with few vendors. And they had a marketing budget, and they contacted me and they said, how should we use our marketing budget to advertise our farmers market? And we talked a bit about the shoppers at that market and their target customers and the size of their budget. And ultimately, while they had been thinking postcards, mailings, and signs, and maybe paid ads to use their budget for. What I suggested was that they buy strawberries from one of their own vendors and offer the first, whatever it was, 40 customers who would come to the farmer's market on that date, get a free pint of strawberries. So here's a more creative way to use the marketing budget than just advertising. Getting this message out on social media that the first 40 customers will get a pint of strawberries, might be more effective with their target audience than just putting up an ad that says this market occurs at this location during these hours, right? So just brainstorming your ideas and coming up with the action and reward and the mechanism, and using this sort of formula through time. If you don't feel very creative, you can at least visit the formula. It's great to choose promotion partners, and see a lot of this evolving on things like social media, but especially among locally owned small and beginning farms and businesses, where they're partnering with each other where it makes sense, where there's non-competing products. So let's just say, a diversified vegetable farm that has CSA shares partnering with a local coffee shop to, they're offering, when you buy a CSA share, when you sign up for a share, we'll give you a $20 gift card to the coffee shop. So it's sort of mutually beneficial. The coffee shop is advertising that the CSA shares are available for pickup at their location. They can have some leverage with each other to offer incentives that they think are going to appeal to their target market. Folks who are joining local farm CSAs are also interested in supporting local coffee shops and local coffee roasters. So picking a promotional partner that makes sense for your product, your target audience, you're actually giving them credibility when you partner with them, right? So they are a locally owned business and they want to build that image with their target customers, and partnering with another local business kind of enhances that. Of course, they're also lending you credibility. They have access to their own customer base, which could really benefit you. So you're sharing customers, if you will. It's very mutual and beneficial. Also, if you depending on your partners that you choose, you're sort of reducing the customer's search cost. And this is, a marketing term that the consumer has to invest a certain amount of time to search for the products that they want. And by partnering with like businesses, you're reducing their search cost because you're sort of giving an endorsement to your partner's products. And you could think of this in a certain way as like offering one-stop shopping, right? That's the whole idea behind one-stop shopping. Helping your customers find other products with similar traits to ultimately reduce their search cost. And of course, your partners can be partners in promoting your products. So to take all of that home, I've constructed this little table for you to sort of choose one from column A, from column B, and column C, and begin to create actions and communications based off objectives and using a formula that's going to make the brainstorming process a little bit easier. Now, I'm not going to read all of those examples, but there's lots of great ones. Feathering in your opportunities with your partners. Let's look at some examples of objectives that would make sense. One would be to increase customer transaction size. So if you're using a point of sale app like Square is recording every transaction that you punch in, and with a timestamp and with the product list and the total customer spend. So if you were just to take a look at that, and Square will help you with some of the analytics, you would find out that, oh, hey, our average farmer's market customer has been spending $3 with us, right? When we ring up our customers, the average for all transactions is $3. We'd like to increase that dollars per transaction. We have our farmers market customers as our audience. We're going to assign a budget, and then we're going to try to create actions to specifically increase customer spending. And I've given you a few examples there: bundling products, changing product sizes, and perhaps even changing pricing. Let's say that our marketing objective is to let the customers know that we exist, right? We have the stuff, we have a pull situation where customers want our products, or our target customer wants our products. And our goal right now is just to let them know that we exist. We're going to do well-placed ads. We're going to show up in the right places, meaning the right markets. And we're going to build partnerships with other businesses that we know have our target customer. Maybe our objective is to get people to our location. And I'm going to expand that thinking to include our website nowadays with the pandemic. So it's getting them to our brick and mortar or our farm, or even just getting them to our website or our Facebook page. How can we get people to come? A well-placed coupon that we can track and see if people are coming in to redeem it. We can offer specials, like I gave the strawberries at the farmer's market example, where the first 40 customers to the farmer's market will get a free pint of strawberries, or some other incentive. Or we can hold special events to try to get people, an open house, a tasting event, or something like that to get people to our location. So just trying to help you see how you can take your ideas and your goals for your business, turn them into concrete objectives, add some brainstorming, and come up with actions that are effective and efficient at reaching the target customer and ultimately building out your business. Let's talk a little bit about your marketing materials. Marketing materials are things like business cards, brochures, labels, signage, and of course, any web presence. You want to make sure that you include your contact information, your brand. Choose a logo or brand image. It doesn't have to be designed by a professional, but it does have to be consistent across all media. I've worked with farms. I'm thinking of one. They sold lamb. They had a logo of a lamb on the packages of meat. That was one logo. And then on their website, they had a different image. And then on a brochure about their farm, they had a third. So, just an opportunity there to go for a consistent, that's what branding really is a consistent image that you build up around your business that goes with your identity. And then a statement of the products and claims that are relevant to your target consumer. So let's just go through some of these points of differentiation. Important claims to make include the assortment of products that you offer. Do you offer the varieties that you offer and the breadth of variety that you offer? So let's think of a vegetable example. We're talking about, how many different vegetables you have, and then individually the variety that you're offering. Is specialty, is it an ethnic or an heirloom variety, and so on. Other things that can make you different are just your location, and any superlatives that we can add to those, like the only, the biggest, the smallest in that location, the breed or variety of plant varieties, your personal farming philosophy or your production mechanisms, your farm size, your business size, we're the biggest, we're the smallest. Like I said, any superlatives that you can add, and then something about your history. You want to include this in your communication. The idea of a sustainable competitive advantage is a claim that you can make that can't be duplicated by a competitor. So let's just step back for a second. You might be the only bakery in your town, but another bakery could open. So that wouldn't be a sustainable competitive advantage. You want to think of, is there something about your product and your business that you can maintain as a point of differentiation over time and that can't be mimicked? So that comes down to perhaps your products, your personal philosophy about your business and how you conduct it. Awards and customer testimonials can't be taken by others. The history of your business and farm. And then again, those superlatives like the first, the smallest, some of those, not the only, wouldn't hold up over time. Something that's really important to avoid, and it's very tempting for folks to get into these with their communication, but really important to avoid negativity in your communication to consumers. So certainly lying to consumers is a bad practice, and we might laugh, but we have to include this just to make sure we're representing our product very honestly. And again, through diligent understanding of our consumer will identify the people who do value what we have, so we don't have to misrepresent it. Avoiding sob stories about personal hardships, financial hardships, family health, relationship problems that you might be having. These don't work with consumers, and I always like to point out that sort of the pity buy will only happen once. Someone might feel bad for you and make a purchase, but then they're going to avoid you like the plague. They're really, that doesn't work. Sob stories are different than talking about the reality of your operation. So again, that customer does like to hear, especially think of the foodie, the experience-driven customer. They do like to hear about the challenges of farming, how you handled your crops or your animals during the last big storm or during the drought, right? That's not a sob story. That's talking about how you operate. Sob stories, again, are health problems, financial, personal relationship problems, and that you don't want to bring to your customers. Criticizing the industry or the government or regulators or competitors really doesn't work for marketing. And it's very, again, it's very tempting for small businesses to want to contrast themselves with really large businesses. But ultimately, that message doesn't build your customer base. It really hurt your image. So you really want to focus on things that are positive. You want to tell people what you're proud of and what you do well, but don't tell them what's wrong with what others are doing. And that's a really important message. So to keep on that line, you can take any negative message that you might be tempted to use and flip it to be positive. So instead of saying other eggs that you can find at the store may have sat in storage for as long as 6 weeks before the sale, it's tempting to use that to tell them why your eggs are fresh and great. But instead of saying that, say our eggs go right from the farm to you in less than 5 days. So take that negative message and make it a positive image. Tell them what you're great at, what you do well and you're proud of. And frankly, your target customer will understand and value that. So you're just going to stick to that positive message. Another thing about keeping your message positive is never ask your customer to solve your problems. Really, you're telling them how you can help solve theirs. So here's a way to take a message where you're asking the customer to solve your problem and flipping it around so it's more positive and telling them how you can solve their problem. Instead of saying, we still need to reach our goal of selling 10 more CSA shares by June 1, right? That's our problem. We have a problem. We're asking you to solve it. Try saying, you still have time to secure your supply of fresh vegetables to feed your family. Now, the same problem is there for the farm, but they're presenting it as a solution to their customer. You need to get fresh vegetables. You need to secure that supply this summer, and you still have time to do it because we can help. So just think about keeping your messaging positive, and you can think about those contrasts that you want to make, but then find a way to present them in a very positive way. And I learned this last trick from an account on Instagram called Good Heart Farmstead, and you can follow her because she is really good at communication and writing and social media. So just wanted to give credit where credit's due. To summarize this section, stop and think about what is your objective. When you have an idea, like I said, my friends who said, we're putting a $10 coupon on the back of our business card. What do you think? Think about what is your objective with each opportunity and with each idea that you have to reach out to consumers. Stop and think about what's your objective, and then design your action around your objective. Take the time to make a marketing plan. It's really worth it. It'll have ultimately a better payoff. It will take you less time for marketing. And like I said earlier in my summary, the less you think that you like marketing, the more that you need to create a plan. Planning is much greater than autopilot responses and sort of reacting and as things happen. Always have your materials. What I mean here is your business card or your brochure. Always keep it with you. You really don't know when you're going to run into relevant people who are going to want to follow up and reach out to you. So at least having your business cards, always in your pocket, always in your purse or wallet, always on the dash of your pickup, because you just don't know when you're going to reach those people. Remember that your printed materials are a work in progress, and any of this can change. You know, you design an objective to save $50 a month and it becomes impractical. You can work on that, you can evolve it and change. So none of this is going to be carved in stone. It's all available to evolve over time through your experience, you know, your feedback that you get from customers and your experience over time. So as you develop this plan, don't think that this is carved in stone forever. You still have a lot of flexibility. You can revise, you can reprint your materials. Yeah, when you start printing stuff, I'm just saying print it in small quantities because you find errors or you find that you want to change it. So that to-do list, we talked about the first two. The next one would be to formulate objectives. And, you know, it being the end of October, what if you were to create objectives for the next 2 or 3 months for customer outreach and for sales, and then start to brainstorm them out and begin to work on really effective and innovative solutions. I'm gonna stop there. Maybe if there's no questions, I have a couple fun stories to share, but let me stop there for questions.
I think I have a question. Can we go back to the positive, taking it from that kind of a more negative to a positive? So I have a really specific example. I have a pie making class on the homestead coming up. I have 2 spots left. And so my marketing strategy was to say, hey guys, only 2 spots left. Now's the time to get your, you know, learn how to make a pie and wow your friends and family for the holidays. So you're kind of saying, yeah, I only have 2 spots left, but I was trying, you know, you're trying to make it more like a.
I think, yeah, but you did a good job. So I don't see the only 2 spots left as really a negative. The way the CSA sentence that I had was sculpted, it was, you know, we still need to sell 10 by this deadline. So it felt like we're asking everybody to solve our problem for us.
Okay.
I think what you're showing is sort of scarcity for a popular item. And I don't personally view that as a negative message. So I think, you know, the way you crafted it sounds good.
Yeah, I try to use it as it's limited, you know, this is a very, you know, select, get in on the know kind of thing. And also try to do it like, you know, woo your friends and family for the holidays, make a homemade pie from scratch kind of thing. Okay, yeah. I just wanted to clarify that kind of in my head. So thank you.
No, I think you've kept it positive. It's a different proposition. And, you know, I like scarcity. So, you know, I don't want us to manipulate our customers. What scarcity is a funny driving force for folks. When they see that something is limited, they feel a little bit more compelled to hop on. And I think, you know, I'd be interested to hear if you fill those 2 spots quickly. But
well, actually, I'm having to cancel the class because of COVID. So I just had all of my people cancel because of that. So now I've got five places. You know, so right. Join me. But yeah, we're going to do it. So in that instance, what I'm doing is, because I think people are, you know, because of resurgence, I have people for that class coming out of Binghamton where there's a resurgence in the COVID cases. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and cancel it and then just reschedule it. Like, okay, guys, we're going to reschedule for April 7th or whatever, you know, whatever date it is that I'm going to pick for the spring, and hopefully get them back on board with that. And I also do like things online. So maybe I'll do like another little, like, you know, virtual class for them that, like, if you don't want to pay X amount of money to come to the homestead, let's pay me like X amount of money, which is significantly lower, and I'll just walk you through how to do it virtually. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Thank you.
We did have one question from Lynn. Is there a percentage of your annual budget that you should dedicate to marketing?
Well, yeah, I don't have a good answer for that. I don't like to prescribe a sort of formulaic, you know, number for that. You know, when I look at individual sales goals or individual sales objectives that I'm writing, I tend to start with 10%, but I also kind of go off intuition at that point and decide, you know, to sell this $1,000 worth of stuff, am I willing to spend $100? So I don't have an easy, quick answer for you. I would certainly think at starting at 10% and perhaps working down from there if it feels like that would be, too much of a loss. So it maybe think of it in terms of, boy, what would I be willing to spend to see this sales goal achieved? Yeah, I don't have an easy blanket answer that would apply to all situations.
Just to sort of follow up more on that positive messaging, so I'm a newcomer to this webinar. I'm a little late to the party, so hello everybody. I work for a farm in Rhode Island, which is where I reside, and I love it. I'm an aspiring farm owner myself, so you'll find me in the orchard and at the farmers markets. We cast a wide net. So because of COVID, we can't give samples. We can't, that experience where we could typically have given an apple to try, because we grow very select, unusual apples that no one in this area has, let alone in New England. And we also grow with a very unique system, which is what attracted me to the orchard in the first place. So this is what I find at the markets. Why are these apples so expensive? Usually there's an expletive. And because Rhode Island literally was Apple Valley. So there are a lot of orchards. And of course, there's a lot of competition. It's a weird vibe here. But so how can I best address a situation when we have literally a very premier apple early in the season and a premier apple late in the season that nobody else has? So I've got this bookend, right? Alpha and Omega, and these apples are like fabulous. And I, without going into, hey, I've got club fees, we have royalties to pay. The trees take a lot more input than some of the other varieties. We have to treat them different post-harvest. How can I best position these products that I find are wonderful without getting into the nitty-gritty? How best could I poise that?
I don't know how long you've been on this webinar today, but it's about the target consumer identification. So the consumer who walks up and looks at these apples and says, why the heck are they so expensive, is not the target customer, right? You're in the wrong place where you have a push strategy. Like, we have to convince these people of the value for all the reasons that you just told us: our production system, our costs, our varieties.
Right.
What you need to do is identify the target consumer that values unique experiences. It sounds like it's a foodie customer. And where are they shopping? They may be, there are farmers markets and there are farmers markets. So farmers markets, I'll go off my local example here in Ithaca. People are coming and frankly, they're paying kinds of prices that the farms need to get, which we might call premium prices. But you could drive an hour outside of Ithaca and find rural farmers markets where the expectation from the shoppers is to get produce at lower prices than the grocery store, right?
Right. We're at so many markets that what we've now done is said, oh, that's the culture of that market. That's the
right.
culture of that market.
So in some cases, you might be at the wrong market, right? You need to find the right markets where the consumers value unique, heirloom, gourmet, premium, right? And communicate that to them. Because you don't want to be left in the position of convincing consumers. And it just takes some of that consumer understanding and writing a strategy sentence about who are these weirdos that want these really special apples, describe them with a caricature, and then go through the rest of the process. But yeah, I mean, it's a great example that you present, because it's something that probably everybody could relate to. And as small businesses, our prices tend to be higher. Because our fixed costs are fixed and our production is small. So probably everybody on here is faced with some struggle in their thought process through their pricing, because they're going to wind up being slightly premium priced for what they produce, and then building marketing strategy that can support that pricing.
Thank you.
I take you back, and I realize not everybody here is familiar with cattle auctions, but you can think about an auction scenario, and it just really makes sense. So at these auctions, farmers are selling calves that weigh 400 to 500 pounds, and the buyers there are buying those calves so they can feed them up to slaughter weight and then sell them to markets, right? So the whole point is that when you bring calves to an auction, buyers will pay more for better calves, and calves can be evaluated based on their breed and their muscling, their what's called body condition score. It's just how they appear. Do they appear full and healthy? If they have vaccination records, because the auctioneer will read off, these animals were vaccinated for these diseases on these dates. So they had good vaccination. If they've been weaned off of their mother cow who's giving them milk and started on feed. So now all these characteristics that I just talked about come from good production management on the farm that's selling them, right? This manager is being sure to vaccinate and to wean and to choose good genetics and so on. That management of their production leads to higher prices, or I'd say it supports high prices at the auction ring, because those buyers know it's a better bang for their buck to buy these calves and they'll pay more. So when we take our products to market, let's say apples at the farmer's market, we can likewise support prices, better prices, through good marketing management. What's marketing management? It's understanding our target consumer. It's clear communication. It's setting objectives. It's having a strategy built around that customer. So I mean, I'm familiar with these auctions, so it makes a lot of sense to me, but you can think about, in that environment, the customer is choosing to pay premiums for well-managed products. And the same exact thing happens in all of our markets, where our customer base recognizes the value of our product. We've put in good marketing management, and therefore we can support the higher prices that we need for our products. I hope that didn't take us too far astray with that example, but really clicks for me. So yeah, I like to say supporting the prices that we need to get through marketing. Of course, through production as well, but we're not here to talk about production.
We'll take a quick break. Then we're getting into marketing channels, and I love this next section. You're going to love it too.